How can a new entrepreneur determine whether there's demand for the product or idea?
You know, today with social media, it's easy.
Mm-hmm.
The first thing I always recommend is put your idea out there on social media. If you get lots of response, very positive response, that's a very good indication. Maybe the next step is to take it to crowdfunding, where
Mm-hmm.
you actually say, well, give me a bunch of money if you think it's that great.
Mm-hmm.
And again, if you don't make anything, you probably got to think twice about whether that's a good thing. So it's very easy with interactive internet to do it. You can, of course, still go back to the formal kinds of customer invitations and interviews, but that's not necessary.
What challenges do you think are involved with protecting intellectual property?
Well, I guess the first challenge is really to register it. In other words, it costs money to register a patent or a trademark. It turns out that you can do provisional patents for very little money, so you do have to register, otherwise you have nothing.
Right.
And people say, I have a trade secret. I don't believe so much in trade secrets, maybe in cooking or a few areas, because in fact, if in software, for example, you can reverse engineer anything and you can figure it out. So get the thing registered formally, then start monitoring. See where you see people using it on the internet, challenge them to get a letter of desist kind of thing. And finally, then you have to decide whether it's going to be cost effective to take them to court if that's necessary.
Right, hopefully not.
Hopefully not, but in fact, usually if you challenge somebody, they will.
That's enough to scare them.
That's enough to scare them off.
Right. You know, you and I both did a talk last year for Forbes. We did Forbes Mentor Week, which was a lot of fun. That's where we met.
That's right.
That's right. And there was a lot of different speakers there. And one of them was one of our professors here, Marty Zwilling, spoke about giving an elevator speech. I just would like to have you explain to our students what an elevator speech is and what do you think should be part of that elevator speech if say they're in an elevator with somebody for 30 seconds and they have just a few moments to tell about their company or product idea or what they do. What would you say?
I'd say an elevator speech is absolutely critical. It should be the first thing in your pitch. It should be the first thing in your executive summary. It should be the first thing in your business plan. And it should be a problem, a definition of the problem with a solution. In other words, people like to start, they get in the elevator with me and they start telling me about their company and why they had this great idea. I want to hear, what is the problem you're solving? And I want to hear it in quantified terms. Is this easier to use? They need, it's tough, or you can't find this. I want it to sound something like, if you can cure cancer for $1, wouldn't you be interested?
Right.
That's a hook. You got to have that hook.
Right.
And within a couple hundred words, you better have the hook.
Could you give an example of an elevator speech? I don't want to put you on the spot. If you don't have one, no big deal, but could you give an example of an elevator speech?
Well, I hear them all the time, and in fact, I just heard one yesterday that said, I can find all the bugs in a software product before it's sent out. Wouldn't that be tremendously beneficial? And of course, it's like a holy grail if you can do that if you're a software developer.
Right.
But that one is so strong that
I almost wonder.
I don't really believe it.
It's too big.
Now you got to start telling me how you're going to do that.
Right.
But if you
realistic is important.
It has to be realistic. I think I've heard them all. I think I've heard the room temperature, superconductivity. I've heard cancer cures. I've heard it's why I say I think I've heard every idea, and I'm only here in one little town.
Right.
So I don't believe there's any shortage of ideas. There's a tremendous shortage of implementation.